Hi guys, I'm Daddy Freeze, convener of the Free the Sheeple movement and leader of the Free Nation in Christ. I greet you and I bring glad tidings. I want to talk about the Madagascar treatment. No biases, no prejudice, just the facts. So we can make up our minds logically as human beings who are in their right thinking minds. So far, Madagascar has 192 confirmed cases of COVID-19. So far, 105 have recovered, and there's absolutely been no death. And Madagascar came out with a herbal remedy that they're touting as a cure. I have nothing against the herbal remedy, and I'm advocating for the WHO to put it to test. I'm advocating for even our own NAFDAC and whatever organization we have in Nigeria or in Africa to put this to test. But I mean proper peer testing in a controlled environment. Then if the results are affirmative, we can proceed to use this as a treatment for COVID-19. However, there's some facts I'd like to bring to your attention. Let's take a look at the country Vietnam. So far, Vietnam has 288 confirmed cases, almost double the confirmed cases of Madagascar. Now, out of the 288, 252 have recovered and 0 deaths, meaning more people have recovered from COVID-19 in Vietnam than in Madagascar. Only 36 people so far out of 288 have not recovered. Meanwhile, in Madagascar, the number is as high as 80 something. If you remove 105 from 192, you will get about 87. So there are 87 unrecovered patients in Madagascar. Meanwhile, there are only 36 unrecovered patients in Vietnam. Nobody has died in Vietnam as well. 252 have recovered. Madagascar only has 105 recoveries. So Vietnam has more than double. Double of 105 is 210. At 252, that is an extra 42 people plus double Madagascar's figure. Yet nobody is talking about Vietnam. And I'll even take you a little further again to another country called the Faroe Islands. So far, Faroe Islands have 187 cases of COVID-19. And here's the thing, out of the 187 confirmed cases, every single one of them has recovered. They have recorded a 100% recovery rate from COVID-19. Nobody has died in Faroe Island. So if what we're putting into consideration is the recovery rate from COVID-19, if we're to treat, Madagascar is going to be at the bottom of the ranking. First, we're going to have Faroe Island with 100% recovery, then Vietnam, then Madagascar. But the problem is, nobody is talking about Faroe Island and nobody's talking about Vietnam. We're all fixated on Madagascar because of sentiments and emotions. Another thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the fact that there are new cases emerging in Madagascar. If you see the slide I'm showing you, it has plus 17 under it. So more people are getting COVID-19 in Madagascar. Meanwhile, if we go back to check Faroe Island, 0 increase. And if we go back to check Vietnam as well, 0 increase. So no new cases recorded in Faroe Island, no new cases recorded in Vietnam, but new cases are being recorded in Madagascar, and that is an issue which we should look into. Here is where vaccines come in. There's an adage that says prevention is better than cure. Vaccine is prevention. Whatever Madagascar is offering is a quote and unquote cure. If you've ever seen anyone with COVID-19 where they're struggling to breathe, where they have raging fevers. One particular actor, one Broadway actor, had his leg amputated over COVID-19. He survived, but his leg was amputated. So it's better to prevent getting the disease than for you to have a successful treatment, because yes, the actor who lost his leg was treated or recovered successfully, but recovered without one leg. And for Madagascar to be getting new cases, it means there's a lot even they have to look into. Many people right now are fighting against vaccines, and they're pushing forward the Madagascar solution. But let me warn you, Pan-Africanism, just like religion, is a box. And as long as you're thinking inside that box, you will be biased and you'd be prejudiced. I ask this question over and over again. Where was Madagascar when vaccines were used to eradicate smallpox? Today, there's not a single case of smallpox in the entire world because of the smallpox vaccine. Yellow fever, been pushed down totally with vaccine. Right now, you can't go to South Africa or Kenya without a yellow card, which shows it's like a vaccine passport for yellow fever. Same thing with many other places in the world. If you do not have that card, you will not be allowed entry into that country. Polio was cut down with vaccine. Measles. So many diseases that at one time were death sentences have been eradicated or almost totally eradicated with vaccine technology. But we're rejecting vaccines because of sentiment. And that's scary, because that shows how hypocritical we are as a people. Christianity first came to Africa in the book of Acts chapter 8, when Philip met the eunuch, who was the treasurer of Ethiopia and who worked directly with the Kandake, that's the Ethiopian queen. And Philip explained the book of Isaiah to the eunuch and baptized him. So the eunuch was the first person to bring Christianity to Africa, and he took it to Ethiopia. And as I speak to you today, Ethiopia does have a Bible. There's an Ethiopian Bible. How come we're not using the Ethiopian Bible? Instead, we're using the King James Bible. Meanwhile, King James is the most erroneous, most heretic, and the worst translation of all the Bible translations. That aside, King James sold our ancestors as slaves. Along the river James was his route, and they landed in a place called Jamestown. The Royal African Company was granted a patent by King James, and by 1668, over a quarter of the company's profits were derived from slave trade, that is, selling us. Bill Gates never sold us. He paid off our debts. So how come we're seeing Bill Gates as the Antichrist? Meanwhile, the one who sold our ancestors is the one whose book we're using to determine who the Antichrist is. King James made the most blunders in any biblical translation. No other Bible called Satan Lucifer. The word Lucifer means the bearer of light, which light is Satan bearing. Only King James Bible refers to Satan as Lucifer. King James is, in my opinion, the Antichrist. The Bill Gates Foundation has algorithms for extracting transmission rates for endemic and epidemic diseases generated from data used in the eradication of polio in Nigeria, as well as Ebola. These network models are used around the world. When you have data, you have statistics, you have numbers, you can predict. And the more an organization knows about epidemic diseases or infectious diseases, the more data they have at their disposal. and the better the predictive power of these models. So the international organizations that have done a lot of work in infectious diseases in Africa, for instance, can be extremely helpful in things like contact tracing, as well as providing the technology needed to eradicate pathogens. So what exactly is our problem with Bill Gates? Because it is the height of hypocrisy to reject Bill Gates' vaccine, but hold on to King James Bible. Yes, a lot of people are suggesting conspiracy theories around Bill Gates, but nothing is proven. But you could go to a history museum right now in Jamestown or in the UK and you will see exactly what King James did with our ancestors. You don't need a conspiracy theory because there's a theory right there based on historical and empirical evidence. Before the Western world came over to Africa, the killing of twins was normal. If we were good to our own people, Mary Slessor would never have had a job. Mary Slessor became famous because she abolished the killing of twins. We saw that lady with tattoos in Akwa Ibom that saved that little boy who was thrown out on the street by his African parents, not by Bill Gates, by his own African parents, his own Nigerian parents, threw him out on the orders of a Nigerian pastor who said he was a witch, and the child was left on the street to die until a Westerner, a Danish woman, came and saved him. Let's talk about smallpox. Smallpox worship had to be eradicated by our colonial masters in 1907 because we were infecting each other intentionally as a means of extorting one another and exploiting and manipulating one another. The shrine of the god of smallpox, Shokpono, is still in Ibadan as I speak today. Meanwhile, with vaccines and westernization, smallpox was eradicated totally. So let me end with this. Let's stop being biased. Let's stop being prejudiced. The reason why vaccine technology is so important is because it prevents you from getting the disease and it also prevents you from spreading the disease. A cure does not stop the spread. It heals the person who's infected. Vaccines will protect the immunocompromised. Anybody who's diabetic or hypertensive or is on cancer medication like chemotherapy or radiotherapy would probably not be able to survive the scourge. So the fact that some people say build your immune system. Yes, build your immune system. But what about your mother who's going through cancer treatment? Can you build her immune system by building yours? Absolutely not. So what you should do is you should protect her because she doesn't have the immune system you have for one reason or the other, for one underlying condition or the other. Right now, there are 100 children in New York that are suffering from Kawasaki's disease as a result of coronavirus. With a vaccine, they would also have been covered. I'm not saying throw away the remedy, absolutely not. We also as Africans should not only work on a cure, we should also work on a vaccine. And whoever comes forward with a vaccine, we should not use the sentiments of race or Pan-Africanism or religion because they've done nothing for us this far. Let's be our brothers' keepers. Many of the people slamming Bill Gates saying he wants to make money off COVID-19 vaccines are themselves making money off selling the conspiracy theories about COVID-19. Judy Mikovits, for instance, wrote a book many years ago that very few people bought. The other day she was on #1 on Amazon because of that documentary called Plandemic. Meanwhile, the real plan in the pandemic was probably what they were up to try to get her book numbers up. Being emotional about Africa is not going to save us. Logical, rational, unbiased, unprejudiced thinking will. God bless you all.